Waitress helps a disabled old man. His will changed her life forever. Rain swept across the city like a cold silver curtain, making the street outside the small diner shine under the streetlights. Cars hissed through puddles. The wind pushed newspapers and plastic cups along the sidewalk as the morning crowd hurried past with their heads down. Inside the diner, warm yellow lights glowed and the smell of coffee drifted through the air. This was where Emily worked every morning, every evening, sometimes both. She stood behind the counter wiping down a stack of plates with tired hands. Her apron was old and a little faded, and her dark hair tied in a simple ponytail kept slipping out around her cheeks. She looked older than 26 because life had been rough, but there was something gentle in her eyes. People felt safe around her, even if they didn't know why. The bell above the door rang softly. An old man stepped in, moving slowly, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. His clothes were clean but worn at the edges, an old brown coat, a scarf wrapped twice around his thin neck. One leg dragged behind him, slightly stiff and unsteady. His face was pale and his hands shook as he tried to close his umbrella. Emily looked up. "Good morning, sir," she said with a small smile. "Take your time. The floor's a little wet." He nodded, breathing hard. "Thank you, dear. I'm just trying not to fall apart." Emily hurried from behind the counter. She reached him just in time when his cane slipped on the wet floor. "Careful," she said, holding his arm gently. "Let me help you to a seat." He tried to protest, but his voice trembled. I don't want to be a bother." "You're not," she told him slowly, guiding him to a booth near the window. He sat down with a pained expression, rubbing his knee. Emily noticed the swelling and the way he winced when he moved. Something inside her tightened. She saw people like him often, people who had been forgotten by busy streets and loud cities. "What would you do if you saw someone like this?" the narrator would ask the viewer softly. "Would you walk past, or would you stop?" Emily placed a menu in front of the old man. "What can I get you, coffee?" He hesitated, lowering his eyes. "Just hot water. That's all." Emily blinked. "Hot water?" "Yes," he whispered. I I can't afford anything else today." There was no shame in his voice, just quiet acceptance, like he had learned to live with disappointment. His hands trembled as he clasped them together on the table. Emily felt her throat tighten. She forced a gentle smile. "Well," she said softly, "how about I bring you a small breakfast anyway, on the house?" He looked up sharply. "No, no, I can't let you do that." "It's okay," she said. "Really, you look like you could use something warm." The old man stared at her with tired, watery eyes. For a moment he looked like he might cry, but he cleared his throat instead. "You're very kind," he whispered. When Emily walked back to the kitchen, she could still feel his gaze on her. Something about him felt different, fragile yet important. Like his presence carried a story she had not heard yet. She prepared a plate with scrambled eggs and toast. She added a cup of coffee, even though he had not asked for it. When she returned to his table, she saw him wiping his glasses with a shaky hand, trying to hide the wetness in his eyes. "Here you go," she said softly. He looked at the food as if he had not seen a warm meal in a long time. "You didn't have to do this," he murmured. "I wanted to," Emily replied. But just as she turned to leave, something unexpected happened. The old man reached into his coat with trembling fingers and pulled out a crumpled envelope, placing it on the table beside the plate. His hand rested on it as if he was deciding something important. Then he looked up at Emily with a strange, heavy gaze. "Miss, may I ask your name, Emily?" she said. He nodded slowly. "Emily, I think you might be exactly the person I was looking for." Before she could ask what he meant, the diner door swung open behind them, and a gust of cold wind rushed in, almost as if the world itself was holding its breath. Emily stood there holding the coffee pot, not sure what to say. "The person you were looking for," she repeated carefully. The old man gave a little smile, tired but warm. "Maybe I'm just an old fool," he said. Or maybe life still has a plan. Emily didn't understand. She just nodded, unsure how to respond. A customer at another table raised a hand. 1 second, she told the old man gently. I'll be right back. By the time she finished taking another order and came back, the old man had eaten almost all the eggs and toast. His hands shook less now. The color had returned a little to his cheeks. The envelope still lay on the table, untouched, his fingers resting on it. Thank you, Emily, he said quietly. You gave me more than just food. It's nothing, she said. He shook his head. It's not nothing. Kindness is never nothing. He pushed the empty plate away and slowly reached for his wallet. Emily stepped forward at once. No, sir, please, she said. It's on the house. I told you. He paused, then nodded, his eyes soft. Then at least let me leave you this. His hand tapped the envelope. But don't open it yet. Only when the time feels right. Her brows drew together. I don't understand. One day you will, he said. Then he stood up with effort. Emily tried to give back the envelope, but he pushed it gently toward her. Please keep it safe, he whispered. Promise me. She hesitated, then slowly nodded. Okay, I promise. He smiled a little sadly, as if he wanted to say more, but knew he shouldn't. Then he walked out of the diner, one slow step at a time, cane touching the floor with each painful move. The bell rang softly as the door closed behind him. Rain and cold stayed outside. Inside, it felt strangely quiet. Emily looked down at the envelope in her hand. It was plain and old, her name written on it in shaky letters to Emily. There was something inside paper, maybe more, but she didn't open it. Instead, she tucked it into the pocket of her apron with a sigh and went back to work. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Plates, orders, coffee, smiles that cost energy she did not really have. By the time the evening came, her back ached and her feet burned. But still, she stayed polite. Still, she said, have a nice night and take care, because that was who she was. When her shift ended, she stepped outside into the cool night. The rain had stopped. The streets were shiny and dark, and the air smelled like wet concrete and gasoline. She pulled her thin jacket tighter around her and started walking toward the bus stop. The bus ride home took 40 minutes. She sat by the window staring at the city lights. The envelope rested in her bag, now quiet but heavy. She touched it once, then pulled her hand away. Not now, she told herself. It's probably just a thank you letter or something. Still, a little curiosity kept poking at the back of her mind. When she reached her neighborhood, the streets looked different from downtown. The buildings were smaller, older, their paint peeling. Some windows were broken and covered with cardboard. A stray cat ran across the path and disappeared into a pile of trash bags. Emily walked up a narrow stairway to the third floor of an old building. The hallway smelled like damp and cooking oil. She unlocked the door to a tiny apartment and pushed it open. Mom, Liam. I'm home. Em. A weak voice answered from the bedroom. Is that you? Yes, Mom. Her mother lay on a small bed propped up against a pile of pillows. Her face was pale, her hair thin and gray, even though she was only in her 50s. She coughed softly, a dry, tired sound that made Emily's chest hurt just to hear it. How was work? Her mom asked. Busy, Emily said, forcing a smile as she walked in. But I managed. How are you feeling? Better than yesterday, her mother lied. The pain in my chest isn't so bad. Emily sat on the edge of the bed and gently took her mother's hand. The truth was clear in her eyes. The medicine they could afford wasn't strong enough. The doctor had told them that months ago. But stronger medicine cost money they didn't have. In a minute, I'll make you some tea, Emily said, and warm the soup. From the corner of the room, a boy's voice called out, Emily, you're back. Her little brother Liam ran in. He was 9, thin with messy brown hair and big bright eyes that still believed good things could happen. He wore a t-shirt that was a bit too small and shorts with a tear at the knee. He jumped into her arms, almost knocking her over. Easy, soldier, Emily laughed softly, hugging him tight. Did you finish your homework? Well, almost, he said, not meeting her eyes. She said, giving him a playful look. We'll check later, okay? He nodded and smiled, then looked at her with curiosity. You look tired. I am tired, she admitted. But I'm okay. She moved into the small kitchen area, really just one corner of the living room with a stove, a sink, and a few shelves. The apartment was cramped one bedroom that her mother used a small couch where Emily slept and a mattress on the floor where Liam slept. The wallpaper peeled in spots. The fridge was almost empty except for a half loaf of bread, a bottle of milk, and a few vegetables. She heated some soup from the day before and made hot tea. While the water boiled, she looked at the calendar on the wall. A red circle around the date at the end of the month stared back at her. Rent day. They were already behind. Her chest tightened. If she couldn't pay, the landlord would complain again. Last time he had said, one more month late, and you're out, Emily. I'm not running a charity. She pushed the thought away and focused on serving her family. Later, the three of them sat together eating simple bread and soup. Liam talked about school, about a friend who had a new backpack, and how his teacher praised him for a drawing. He tried to hide it, but Emily could see the way he glanced at other kids' things, at their clothes and shoes. We'll get you a new backpack soon, she said softly. He shrugged. It's okay. Mine still works. Her mother looked at Emily over the rim of her cup. You can't keep doing this forever, Em, she whispered when Liam left the table for a moment. Working 2 shifts, worrying about us all the time. You're going to break. I'm not going to break, Emily answered, but her voice was soft. You and Liam need me. That's all that matters. Her mother's eyes shone with tears. You're a good girl, she said. Too good for this life. Emily did not answer. She only squeezed her mother's hand. Later that night, after Liam had fallen asleep and her mother was resting, Emily sat on the couch with a small lamp beside her. The room was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic and the soft ticking of a cheap wall clock. She reached into her bag and took out the envelope. To Emily. She traced the letters with her thumb. Who was that old man, really? Why did he say she was the person he was looking for? Have you ever had a small, strange moment that felt bigger than it looked? The narrator might quietly ask the viewer. A moment that seemed like nothing, but later changed everything. Emily sighed and leaned back. It's probably nothing big, she told herself. Maybe it's a small thank you, or just some kind words. She almost opened it. Her finger slid under the edge of the flap. Then she stopped. The old man's voice came back to her. Only when the time feels right. She pulled her hand away and closed her eyes. Not tonight, she whispered. I'll wait. She put the envelope into a small box where she kept the few important things she owned: her father's old watch, a photo of the family before he left, a bracelet from her childhood. She closed the lid and hid the box under the couch. As she lay down to sleep, her mind filled with worries: rent bills, medicine, food, Liam's school. But mixed in with them now was a tiny new question. Who was that man? The next morning, as she tied her apron at the diner and started another long shift, she looked up and froze. A sleek black car she had never seen before was parked across the street, engine still running. A driver in a suit stood beside it, and inside, through the tinted window, she could just make out the shape of a man who looked a lot like the old man from yesterday, only now he seemed different, as if the world around him was not poor and tired at all, but very, very rich. The black car stayed across the street like a shadow that didn't belong in her world. Emily tried to ignore it at first, but it was impossible. The diner's windows were large, and every time she walked past them with a plate or a mug, she caught the glint of sunlight on the polished metal. Around mid-morning, the bell above the door chimed softly. A tall man in an expensive dark coat stepped inside. His shoes were polished, his hair neatly styled, and his eyes sharp and tired at the same time. He didn't look like someone who visited small diners. He looked like someone who signed contracts worth millions and had people to open doors for him. The quiet inside the diner shifted. People glanced up, sensing that he didn't belong in this simple world. Emily walked toward him slowly. "Good morning," she said, not sure if her voice sounded steady. "Would you like a table?" He looked at her for a long second, as if studying her face carefully. "You're Emily, right?" "Yes," she said, surprised. "I need to talk to you," he replied. "Privately." Her heart dropped. Oh no. Did something happen to the old man? She motioned toward an empty booth at the back, away from customers. He followed her there and sat down. Emily did the same, clutching her order pad even though she knew she wouldn't need it. "I'm Daniel Hartman," he said. The name rang a faint bell. She had heard it on the radio once, something about a real estate empire company, expansions, charity events. She didn't know much. Rich people's world felt like another planet. He removed a pair of black leather gloves and sighed. "You met my father yesterday." Emily blinked. "Your father?" "The old man. He never said his name." "He's stubborn," Daniel said with a faint, sad smile. "And private. But he came home last night. Different. Softer. Emotional." His voice lowered. "He doesn't get emotional anymore." Emily frowned. "Is he okay?" His leg looked painful. "He's been disabled for years," Daniel said. "A car accident. And his health isn't great. He hides most of it, always pretending he's stronger than he is." He paused, his jaw tightening. "He didn't tell anyone he was leaving the house yesterday, not even the nurse." Emily's eyebrows rose. "He went out alone." "That seems dangerous." "Yes," Daniel murmured. "It was." He looked away for a moment, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Emily noticed faint shadows under his eyes. This man, with all his wealth, didn't look calm or happy. He looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept in days, maybe years. "My father talked about you," Daniel continued softly. "About what you did for him." Emily shook her head. "I didn't do anything special. I just helped him sit down. I gave him breakfast because he looked hungry. That, Daniel said, is what makes it special." His voice was tight, as if something pressed on his heart. He reached into his coat and placed a small notebook on the table. It was old, worn, and held together by a rubber band. This, he said quietly, was in his hands when he came home last night. This and another envelope. Emily's breath caught. "Another one." Daniel nodded. "He wrote something before he left yesterday. Something important. I didn't know why he insisted on going out until he mentioned you." Emily swallowed, unsure where this was going. "What did he write?" she whispered. Daniel looked down at his hands. "He wouldn't tell me. He only said, 'It's for Emily.'" Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. "I don't know why he would do that. I barely know him." "Maybe," Daniel said, lifting his gaze to hers, "but my father doesn't do things randomly. Especially not lately." There was a pause. Emily sensed he was holding something back. "Something heavy." She asked softly, How is your father now?" Daniel's face changed slightly, his strong, confident features bending under a weight she couldn't see. "He's stable," Daniel said. "But last night during dinner, he had trouble breathing. We rushed him to the hospital. He's resting now, but..." He inhaled slowly. "He's old, weak, and the doctors say his condition could change any day." Emily's stomach twisted. "I'm so sorry." Daniel nodded, once accepting the sympathy. "He mentioned you several times, Emily. Called you the girl with the kind heart. And then he said something that confused me." "What did he say?" "That maybe you were the one person left who still reminded him that kindness exists." Emily froze. The words felt too big, too heavy for someone like her. Someone who struggled just to pay rent and keep her family safe. She took a slow breath. "Why are you telling me all this?" Because Daniel said quietly, My father wants to see you. Emily's throat tightened. Me? But why? I'm just a waitress? Daniel shook his head gently. To him, you aren't just anything. Silence settled between them for a moment. Then Daniel added, he asked, no, insisted that I bring you to the hospital today. Emily's eyes widened. Today I have work. And my family, I'll drive you, Daniel said. And I'll make sure your boss understands. I'll cover your missed hours. Emily stared at him. Everything felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's life. Please, Daniel said softly, his voice losing some of its controlled, wealthy polish. My father doesn't ask for much anymore, but he asked for you. Emily exhaled slowly. Maybe this was the moment the strange envelope had been waiting for. She nodded. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. Daniel stood up relieved. Thank you. But just as he turned to leave, the diner bell rang again. A nurse rushed inside, scanning the room until she saw him. Mr. Hartman, she called urgently. You need to come now. It's your father. His condition just changed. Daniel's face went pale. He looked at Emily, voice tight. Come with me. Please. Emily grabbed her coat with trembling hands and followed him out the door, straight toward a moment she did not yet understand, but that would change her life forever. Rain started again as soon as they stepped outside, thin and cold, brushing against Emily's cheeks. The black car waited at the curb, engine humming softly. The driver hurried to open the back door, but Daniel shook his head. No, Emily sits with me. She hesitated before sliding in. The leather seats were soft, far softer than anything she had ever touched. Her fingers curled nervously on her lap. Daniel got in beside her, closed the door, and the car pulled into traffic with smooth speed. Emily stared out the window. Buildings blurred past. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Do you think he'll be okay? She asked quietly. Daniel looked down at his hands. I hope so. He sounded like a man who had already lost too much to hope easily. The car reached the hospital quickly. It was tall, modern white lights glowing against the gray sky. They rushed inside. Nurses moved quickly in the halls. Machines beeped behind closed doors. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. The nurse who'd come to the diner led them to a room near the end of the hall. He's stable for now, she said gently, but you should hurry. Daniel nodded and stepped inside. Emily followed slowly, her heart pounding hard. The old man, Mr. Hartman, lay on a hospital bed with tubes in his arms. His skin looked thinner than yesterday, almost transparent. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes opened when he heard the door. Emily, he whispered. Emily moved closer, unsure if she should speak. Daniel stood at the other side of the bed, gripping the rail with both hands. Father, he said softly, I brought her, like you asked. The old man smiled faintly. Good boy. Emily swallowed hard and stepped closer. I'm here. He lifted his hand slightly and she gently took it in hers. His fingers were cold, fragile. You kept the envelope, he asked. Yes, Emily said. I haven't opened it. Good, he murmured. You'll know when the moment is right. Daniel looked between them, confused and tense. Father, what is all this? What did you write? Why won't you tell me? The old man closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. When he opened them again, they shone with something deep, regret, longing, memory. Because he whispered, this is not about money or business, it's about kindness. Something you can't buy, Daniel. Something she showed me. Emily felt her chest tighten. I walked into that diner yesterday, he continued, feeling useless. Like a broken old man. People rarely see me anymore. They see the chair, the cane, the weakness. His voice trembled. But she saw me. Emily shook her head. Anyone would have helped. He squeezed her hand gently. No, not everyone would. Not anymore. A long breath escaped his frail body. Daniel swallowed. Father, I should have been there for you. You are here now, the old man whispered. But you don't understand yet. Suddenly, the heart monitor beside him beeped irregularly. Emily's breath caught. A nurse hurried in. We need to keep conversations short, she said. He needs rest. But Mr. Hartman shook his head. Just a little more. He motioned to Emily again. She leaned closer. Thank you, he whispered, for making an old man feel human again. Emily felt tears sting her eyes. You don't have to thank me. But he had already turned to Daniel. Son, listen to me. There is something important you must do. Daniel leaned in. Anything, Emily, the old man whispered, needs help. Emily's eyes widened. Sir, please, no. You don't owe me anything. He shook his head, voice thin but firm. Kindness must be returned. Life must continue. Promise me you will help her, Daniel. Daniel froze. Father, I don't even know her. Promise, he said again, his voice suddenly sharp. Daniel took a slow breath, then nodded. I promise. The old man exhaled, deeply relieved. Good. Good. A moment passed. The nurse stepped forward. He needs to rest now. Daniel nodded, wiping his eyes quickly. Emily stepped back, letting go of the old man's hand. She turned to leave, but his voice came again, soft and fading. Emily, she stopped. Don't forget, open the envelope only when your heart tells you. Then his hand slipped from hers. The nurse adjusted his machines. Emily and Daniel stepped outside into the hallway. For a moment, neither spoke. Then suddenly, wait, a doctor shouted from inside the room. A loud alarm rang. Nurses ran in. Emily's stomach dropped. Daniel burst back into the room. Father, he cried. Emily froze at the doorway, hands trembling. She watched as nurses worked quickly, voices urgent. His heart rhythm is dropping. Prepare the defibrillator. Charging, Daniel's voice broke. No, please stay with me. Emily pressed a hand over her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. For long, terrible seconds, the world was nothing but machine beeps, rushing footsteps, and desperate commands. Then a flat tone filled the room. The nurses stopped moving. Emily felt the breath leave her body. Daniel's shoulders collapsed. The doctor placed a hand on his arm. I'm very sorry. Daniel bowed, his head shaking. Emily stepped inside, silent as a shadow. She stood beside him, not touching him, not speaking, just offering her presence. After a long, painful silence, Daniel whispered, He wanted you here for a reason. Emily wiped her tears. I'm so sorry. He turned to her with red eyes. My father saw something in you, something I didn't understand. He swallowed hard. But I will honor my promise. Emily shook her head quickly. I didn't help him for a reward. I just did what felt right. That, Daniel said quietly, is exactly why he trusted you. He looked back at the still figure on the bed. Emily followed his gaze, her heart aching. She remembered the warmth in the old man's eyes when she had helped him. The way he thanked her, the way he insisted she keep the envelope. Let me take care of everything, Daniel said, steadier now. The funeral, the arrangements, and afterward, I'll talk to you again. Emily didn't know what that meant, but she nodded. They left the room together, walking down the long hallway, filled with soft lights and quiet footsteps. Emily had no idea that the true turning point, one that would change everything, was only beginning. The days after Mr. Hartman's passing felt strangely quiet for Emily, even though nothing in her real life slowed down. She still woke early, still worked long shifts, still hurried home to care for her mother and Liam. But her thoughts kept drifting back to the hospital room, to the old man's soft smile, to the envelope hidden in her small box under the couch. She didn't open it. Not yet. Something inside her said the moment hadn't come. Instead, she poured her energy into her family. When she came home from work, she cooked, cleaned, checked homework, helped her mother walk from the bed to the chair. All while knowing the rent was coming, bills were stacking up, and her body was wearing thin. One night as she rubbed her mother's back during a coughing fit, her mother whispered weakly, Emily, you're too tired. Emily forced a smile. I'm fine. Her mother touched her cheek. You deserve a better life. Emily looked away. Maybe one day, but she didn't believe it. 3 days after the funeral, the diner door opened and Daniel walked in. He looked different, darker coat, more exhaustion in his eyes. The grief hadn't faded. It had settled into him like a permanent shadow. He approached the counter. Emily, he said softly. She nodded. Hi. How? How are you holding up? I'm managing, he replied. Can we talk? She asked her coworker to handle the tables and followed him outside. The street was busy, people rushing past, but the two of them stood still. Daniel took a breath. My father prepared something for you before he died. Emily's heart skipped. But why? I only gave him breakfast. That breakfast meant something Daniel said. He wrote about it in his notebook. He paused. He saw people turning away from him because of his disability. He didn't want pity, he wanted humanity. You gave him that. Emily swallowed thickly. I didn't know he felt that way. Daniel nodded. He wanted to help you because you helped him. She looked down. I don't want charity. This isn't charity, Daniel said gently. This is a promise I made to him. And it's also something I want to do. She looked up surprised. He continued, I want to give you a better job. At my company. Her breath caught. What you said, you work 2 shifts. You look exhausted. You deserve more. He hesitated. I could use someone I can trust. Someone grounded. My father trusted you. Emily shook her head quickly. I'm not educated. I didn't finish college. I won't fit in with rich employees. You don't need a degree to learn, Daniel said. You need honesty. And you already have that. Her mind spun. It felt unreal, too good, too strange. And your family, he asked softly. They need you home more, don't they? Her throat tightened. Yes. Then let me help, he said. Please. At least come and see the office before you decide. Emily hesitated for a long moment, but then she remembered the old man's weak voice. Promise me you will help her, Daniel. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll come. The next morning, Daniel's driver picked her up. She wore her cleanest shirt and her only nice pair of pants. When the car pulled up to a tall glass building, she stared up in awe. This is your company, she asked Daniel as he met her at the entrance. One of them, he said softly. Inside, everything sparkled. Marble floors, glass walls, people in suits, speaking quickly into headsets. Every step she took felt like she was walking into a place she didn't belong. But Daniel walked beside her calmly, introducing her to staff, showing her departments, letting her see how things worked. He didn't push. He didn't rush her. He treated her like someone who deserved to be there. Finally, he brought her to a quieter floor. This is where I need help most, he explained. Basic admin tasks, managing schedules, helping with small events, organizing documents, answering emails. You can learn everything step by step. Emily bit her lip. I've never worked in an office before. That's okay, Daniel said. I'll arrange training and flexible hours. You can still care for your family. Her eyes filled with tears, she tried to blink away. Why are you being so kind? Really, Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Because my father saw something in you that I should have seen sooner. He paused. And because I want to honor his last wish. Emily felt something warm rise in her chest. Hope, tiny but real. Will you take the job? Daniel asked softly. Emily glanced at the polished floor, the neat desks, the organized files, then thought of her mother's medicine, of Liam's school supplies, of the landlord knocking again. Slowly she nodded. Yes. Daniel let out a breath like he'd been holding it. Good. And thank you, Emily said quietly. You don't have to thank me. His voice softened. Just do your best. Emily started the next Monday. The first days were hard. She made mistakes. She typed slowly. She asked 1,000 questions. Co-workers stared at her sometimes, curious, a little confused by the boss's sudden interest in a waitress. But she learned. She took notes. She stayed late to practice typing. She watched tutorial videos on her old phone at night after caring for her mother. She pushed herself because she wanted this chance to matter. Daniel checked on her often, not as a boss, hovering more like someone quietly watching to make sure she wasn't overwhelmed. "How's your mother?" he asked one afternoon. "She's doing better," Emily said. "I bought her new medicine." "That's good." "And Liam happy?" She smiled. "He likes telling his friends his sister works in a tall building." Daniel smiled back, a true one, small but warm. "I'm glad." Their conversations became easier over time. Not formal, not awkward, just comfortable. One evening he approached her desk as she packed up. "Long day," he asked. You could say that she laughed. "You're improving fast," he noted. "I'm proud of you." Her cheeks warmed. "Thank you. I'm trying. I can tell," he said softly. For a moment they just looked at each other, and something gentle passed between them, something neither spoke about, but both felt. Later that night, as she walked into her apartment with groceries bought from her first real paycheck, her mother smiled through tired eyes. "You look brighter," her mother whispered. Emily laughed softly. "Maybe I am." "What happened, Em?" her mother asked. Emily placed the groceries down and sat beside her. "Mom, I think things are starting to change." Her mother placed a hand over hers. "You deserve that." Emily squeezed her hand. "I hope so." As she cooked dinner with Liam dancing around the tiny kitchen, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. But not everyone liked change, and not everyone wanted Emily in that office. One pair of eyes, sharp and jealous, had been watching her for days, and soon that jealousy would strike. The trouble began quietly, so quietly that Emily didn't see it coming. On her second week at the company, she arrived early, hoping to get a head start on organizing schedules. She walked through the glass doors feeling proud of being early, only to notice a woman already sitting at a nearby desk staring at her with sharp, cold eyes. The woman was beautiful in a polished, expensive way: straight blonde hair, perfect makeup-fitted blazer. Her name tag said, "Megan, Senior Assistant." Emily smiled gently. "Good morning." Megan didn't smile back. "You're early. I like starting early," Emily said, still trying to be polite. Megan crossed her arms. "You're new here. You should learn something. People who come from simple places don't last long in this office." Emily froze. Simple places, meaning poor places. Before she could respond, Megan stood and walked past her with a click of expensive heels. "You'll understand eventually," she said without looking back. Emily forced herself to ignore it. Maybe Megan was just having a bad morning, but it wasn't just a morning. It became a pattern. Little things. Sharp comments, long stares, accidental bumps in the hallway that never really looked accidental. One afternoon when Emily tried to print documents, Megan's voice came from behind her. "You're using the wrong settings," Megan said flatly. Emily stepped aside. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still learning." Megan tapped a few buttons, then glanced at Emily with a tilted smile. "Learning is fine," she said softly, "as long as you don't slow everyone else down." Emily felt a sting deep inside, but she kept quiet. She had worked with rude customers before. She could handle this, or so she believed. 2 days later, the real sabotage began. During a busy morning, Daniel came downstairs to check on schedules for a major meeting. Emily had spent hours organizing details, names, times, room bookings. But when Daniel opened the file on the screen, the schedule was a mess. Times wrong, rooms mixed up, several names missing. Emily stared at it, shocked. I don't understand. I checked everything last night." Daniel frowned gently. "It's okay. Maybe the file didn't save properly." But Megan, standing in the doorway, let out a soft laugh. "Or maybe some people aren't used to working with computers." Emily turned toward her, cheeks burning. I didn't make those mistakes. Megan raised an eyebrow. Are you saying someone else edited your files? Daniel stepped between them. Enough. Let's fix it together. He wasn't angry, but he was serious, and that made Emily panic even more. She didn't want him to think she couldn't handle the job. She worked all morning to correct the schedule, her hands shaking, her stomach tight. She kept thinking, someone changed my file. Someone did this on purpose, but she didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. That afternoon, Megan passed her desk again, her voice low. You're not going to last. He'll see it. Everyone will. Emily looked up, eyes burning. Why are you doing this? Megan shrugged casually. Because you don't belong here. And then she walked away. The next week was worse. Emily found papers missing from her desk. Emails she clearly sent appeared unsent. Appointments she confirmed were suddenly erased. People started whispering, is she incompetent? I heard she used to work in a diner. Why did the boss bring her here? Emily tried to ignore the whispers, but they stabbed her hard each time. One evening after everyone left, she stayed late to finish tasks that had mysteriously disappeared earlier. When she finally walked out into the quiet parking lot, she saw someone standing near the building entrance. Daniel. He approached with concern in his eyes. You're leaving late again. I had extra work, Emily said weakly. He frowned. Emily, you look exhausted. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't want to show. I'm trying, Daniel. I promise I'm trying. I know you are, he said gently. You're doing great. She shook her head. No. People think I'm failing. Things keep going wrong. Files, missing messages, disappearing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Daniel hesitated, then spoke quietly. Emily, you're not doing anything wrong. She blinked. What do you mean I know what's happening, he said. I've seen this before. Her heart raced. What's happening? He held her gaze for a long, heavy moment. Someone is trying to remove you. Emily felt ice slide into her chest. It's Megan, isn't it? She whispered. Daniel let out a slow breath. She was my father's assistant for years, loyal and efficient, but she never liked change. He looked down. And she especially doesn't like new people near me. Emily felt her throat tighten. She thinks I want something from you? Yes, Daniel said quietly. And she's jealous. Emily shook her head quickly. I don't want anything. I just want to work and help my family, I know, Daniel said. I believe you. But believing wasn't enough. The next morning, everything exploded. A huge meeting was scheduled with foreign investors. Emily prepared all the documents the night before. She double-checked every page. She put everything in the correct folders. But when Daniel opened the folders in the conference room, they were filled with blank papers. Blank. Emily gasped. No. No, I swear they were complete. Megan stood at the doorway, arms crossed. Are you serious, Emily? This is unacceptable. Emily turned toward her, panicked. You switched them. You sabotaged them. What Megan stepped forward, pretending to be shocked. Are you accusing me of something? Daniel stepped between them. Stop. He looked at Emily, eyes steady but unsure. Emily, are you absolutely sure? Yes, she cried. Please believe me. Megan shook her head. She's overwhelmed, Daniel. Maybe she wasn't ready for this job, a few investors whispered. Emily felt the heat rising in her face, her eyes burning, her heart pounding painfully. Daniel looked torn, caught between logic, loyalty, and the promise he had made to his father. Daniel, please, Emily, whispered, trembling. I wouldn't do this. You know I wouldn't. Before he could answer, an assistant rushed in breathlessly. Mr. Hartman. We found the real folders. They were thrown in the shred bin. Everyone looked at Megan. Everyone. Her face went pale. Daniel's voice became cold and sharp. Why were they in the shred bin, Megan? I don't know, she probably... Stop, Daniel said harshly. Enough lies. The room fell silent. Megan's eyes flicked between him and Emily, realizing the truth was exposed. You're choosing her over me, she spat. I'm choosing truth, Daniel said firmly. And respect. Megan's face twisted with anger. She grabbed her bag and marched out, slamming the door behind her. The investors watched in shocked silence. Daniel turned to Emily, his voice gentle again. I believe you, he said. I always did. Emily's knees weakened with relief and exhaustion, but Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. This ends today, he said. No more attacks, no more lies. You're safe here, Emily. And for the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe again. After the confrontation with Megan, the office felt strangely quiet, calmer, lighter, almost as if a storm had finally passed. But Emily didn't relax right away. She had spent so many days feeling blamed, watched and doubted that her body still held the tension like a memory. That morning after the investors left satisfied, Daniel walked her to his office, a space filled with glass walls, warm light, and a quiet strength that fit him well. He closed the door gently and turned to her. Are you okay? He asked. Emily nodded, though her hand still trembled slightly. I'm trying to be. You didn't deserve what she did, he said. None of it. Emily looked down at the floor. I thought I was going crazy, Daniel. Every day something went wrong. I kept asking myself if maybe I really wasn't good enough. Daniel stepped closer. You are good enough. More than good enough. His voice was steady, firm, but kind in a way that warmed her chest. She tried to swallow back the tightness in her throat. It's just, I didn't want to disappoint you or your father. The mention of his father softened his expression. He walked slowly to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out the old notebook Emily had seen before, the one his father had kept. He placed it gently in her hands. He wrote about you, Daniel said. The day he met you, he wrote how a stranger's kindness made him feel hopeful again. Emily ran her fingers over the worn cover, her heart heavy and warm. He wanted you to have this, Daniel added softly, to remind you that small moments matter. Tears rose in her eyes before she could stop them. I don't know why he cared so much about me. Daniel shook his head gently. Because he was a good man. And because you gave him something money couldn't buy. Emily pressed the notebook to her chest for a moment. She didn't know what to say, so she whispered the only thing that felt right. Thank you. Daniel watched her with eyes that held something deeper than gratitude, something softer, searching. You don't have to face any of this alone, he said quietly. Emily looked up at him, surprised by the emotion in his voice. She wasn't used to anyone offering help without expecting something in return. I've been alone for a long time, she admitted, except for my family. You're not alone now, Daniel said. His words hung in the air for a moment, warm, fragile, almost intimate. Then he cleared his throat gently, trying to regain some professionalism. Let's take the rest of the day off. You need rest. I'll drive you home. Emily wanted to refuse out of politeness, but she was too tired to pretend she wasn't exhausted. So she nodded. When the car pulled up in front of her apartment building, Daniel stepped out and opened her door. Emily stared at him, embarrassed. You don't have to do that, she said softly. I want to, he replied. She led him up the narrow stairs to the third floor. The hallway smelled of old paint and fried food from another unit. Her mother's voice called from inside. Emily, is that you? Yes, Mom, she said, stepping in. I brought someone with me. Her mother sat up from bed, her face pale but welcoming. Liam peeked from behind the bedroom door, eyes wide with curiosity. Daniel stepped inside, slowly offering a polite smile. Good afternoon, Mrs. Brooks. Emily's mother blinked in surprise. Oh, I didn't expect. Her eyes flicked to Emily. Your boss, Emily nodded awkwardly. Yes, this is Daniel. Her mother tried to smooth her hair and sit straighter. It's an honor. I hope Emily is working hard. Emily felt her face go hot. Mom, Daniel smiled gently. She's one of my best employees. Liam ran up suddenly, looking at Daniel with bold curiosity. Do you have a car? A really big one, Daniel laughed softly. I do, but I think you'd like the driver even more. He used to be a race car driver. Liam gasped. Really, Emily gave Daniel a grateful look. He didn't treat her family like charity. He treated them like people who mattered. Emily warmed leftover soup for her mother while Daniel sat quietly on the old couch. The room was cramped, but he didn't show discomfort. Instead, he looked around slowly at the peeling walls, the worn furniture, the tiny kitchen, his eyes filling with something between sadness and respect. You've been carrying a lot, he said quietly when Emily returned to the living room. She sat beside him, hands folded. Everyone carries something, but not everyone carries it alone, he replied. Emily didn't answer. She wasn't used to people seeing her pain so clearly. After a few minutes, Daniel stood. I should go. You need rest. But if it's all right, I'd like to check on you and your family again sometime. Emily looked at her mother, who smiled warmly from her bed. I think we'd like that, her mother said. Emily blushed. Mom. Daniel smiled softly. Then I'll see you soon. Over the next few weeks, life changed quietly but beautifully. Emily's job became smoother. The tension was gone. People began to respect her, especially after Daniel spoke openly about her innocence during a staff meeting. He praised her work ethic, her honesty, and her dedication. Some coworkers even apologized for judging her too fast. At home, her mother's health improved with the new medicine Emily could now afford. Liam had new shoes and a proper backpack for school. Emily bought a second-hand laptop to keep practicing her office skills. And Daniel visited often. He never came empty-handed sometimes. Groceries, sometimes flowers for her mother, sometimes a small toy for Liam. But more importantly, he brought warmth. Conversation, presence. He would sit at the tiny table while Emily cooked, asking about her day. You're glowing more lately, he said one evening. Emily laughed softly. I think that's just the steam from the pot. No, he said quietly. It's something else. Something inside her chest fluttered, small, careful, new. Slowly, very slowly, walls she had built over years of struggle began to soften. Daniel opened up too. One night while Liam played with a toy car on the floor, Daniel told Emily about his biggest regret. My mother died 10 years ago, he said softly. I was too busy with work. I didn't spend enough time with her. My father never forgave me for that, and neither did I. Emily listened quietly, her hand resting gently on his arm. I'm sure she knew you loved her, she said. I hope so, he whispered. That night something changed between them. Not spoken, not declared, just felt. A bond deeper than gratitude, stronger than circumstance, something like trust, something like affection, something like the beginning of love. The narrator whispers softly to the audience. Do you believe one act of kindness can really change a destiny? Because in that small apartment, in the warm light of evening, two people from different worlds began to heal each other. But life was not done surprising Emily yet. The day she finally opened the envelope would change everything again. Emily didn't open the envelope until a month later. Life had settled into a gentle rhythm: work in the mornings, caring for her mother in the evenings, helping Liam with homework at night. Daniel visited often, always kind, always thoughtful, and always a little softer than the man she first met. Their quiet bond deepened in the small apartment over cups of tea, shared stories, and small smiles neither of them tried to hide anymore. One evening after Emily tucked Liam into bed and brought her mother her medicine, she sat alone on the couch. The apartment lights were dim warm. Outside, the city hummed with distant traffic. She reached under the couch and pulled out the little box. Inside it sat the envelope. To Emily. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, slowly, carefully. Inside were two things: a short handwritten letter and a folded document. She unfolded the letter first. Dear Emily, you gave an old man kindness when he expected none. You reminded me of the goodness I had forgotten existed. I wanted to say thank you in a way that would matter to you, not because you asked for it, but because you deserved it. My son will bring this to you when the time is right. Please use it to build the life you dream of. With gratitude, William Hartman, Emily felt tears gather in her eyes. She wiped them away before they could fall. Her hands shook as she unfolded the second paper. It was a legal transfer document, granting her full ownership of a small apartment unit in a safe, clean neighborhood across town. A real home, not rented, not borrowed, owned. Her breath caught in her throat. It felt impossible, unreal. Her family would finally have a place where they could breathe without fear of eviction, a place where her mother could rest, where Liam could grow. She pressed the paper to her chest and cried softly into her hands. That was how Daniel found her when he knocked and let himself in. "Emily," he said gently, concern in his voice as he hurried toward her. "What happened?" She handed him the document with shaking hands. "Your father, he gave me a home." Daniel read it quietly, his eyes softening. "He always intended this. I can't accept this," Emily whispered. "It's too much." "No," Daniel interrupted softly, sitting beside her. "It's not too much. It's what he wanted. And it's what you deserve." Emily shook her head, tears still falling. "Why me?" Daniel's voice dropped to a tender whisper. "Because you showed him something money can't buy. You showed him love without knowing who he was. You reminded him of everything good in the world." He gently took her hand. "And Emily, you reminded me too." She looked at him, heart pounding. Daniel's eyes held something deep, something warm and steady. "You've changed my life," he said. "My home feels different. My days feel different. Since the moment you came into our lives, everything has felt lighter." Emily's breath trembled. "Daniel," he moved a little closer, "I don't want to lose you. And not because of a promise to my father, but because he paused, looking suddenly vulnerable. "I care about you. Deeply." Emily's tears slowed. Her heart softened. She touched his hand gently. "I care about you too." The moment stretched between them, quiet and warm, full of promise. Then Daniel took her into a gentle embrace. She closed her eyes, feeling safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. Later, as they sat side by side, hands entwined, imagining the future, something inside Emily healed a wound she had carried alone for so long. She had a home now. She had a family. And she had someone who wanted to share life with her. A new beginning. A quiet, beautiful one. Kindness is never wasted. Even the smallest act can change someone's entire world. We never truly know the battles people are hiding, the loneliness they carry, or the hope they still search for. When we choose compassion, we open doors not only for others, but also for ourselves. Don't look down on anyone. Don't assume someone's value by their closed job or past. Real strength comes from caring, from seeing people with a gentle heart. And sometimes blessings come from the people we least expect. What did you learn from this story? Have you ever helped someone without expecting anything back and later felt the world return that kindness to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more stories full of hope and humanity. Stay tuned, another emotional story is coming soon.